I just said we're going to do this live and look at where we're already at. Okay. Welcome to Over the Wall Podcast. It's me and Thomas Scully. We started this podcast because we like sports. We like to yell about sports. And I feel like we're the perfect balance of he's the nerdy statistician and I'm just the guy that gets angry and yells. He can also yell. You'll find out later on in our podcast. He can definitely yell about stuff. We share some sports teams. It does say over the wall. I want to make a blanket statement. It does say over the wall. But what we're going to do is we're basically going to talk about all sports all year long. Just have some fun. Talk about. He has definitely some fandoms that he will be passionate about. I have one fandom, and the rest I just watch the sports and talk about and make people mad. Scully, you joined. You can talk a little bit about your teams, your fandom, and then we'll get going into the baseball season.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep all of my fandoms maybe a little wrapped up in secrecy for now. Let everyone kind of see it as they go along. Kind of force them to watch other episodes of the podcast, just so they can figure out all my fandoms. But I think the one we're most passionate about today is this team right here, greatest franchise of all time, the Boston Red Sox. So yeah, you'll definitely see definitely see. In this episode, we explore this baseball season. Maybe a little bit biased, but I try to be as objective as possible when it comes to things like this. But yeah, I think this is going to be a real fun time. I think you and I have our personalities will clash a lot at times, but I think at the end of the day, that just makes for more excitement.
Yeah. Me and Scully kind of met in like a movie community. Basically, we love movies, but I think as the years went on, we kind of found out that we like sports. Honestly, if we were honest about it, we'd probably choose sports over
Yep,
movies
yep,
most times.
pretty much.
If it's a big game, if it's something like that, we're going to try to do some watch-alongs with games, some like entertainment. We are both Red Sox fans. I'm a diehard Red Sox fan. I love the team, but overall, I even this predictions, I kept it as least biased as possible. I think I tried to help myself as much as possible, but it was hard at some points because I think our team is really good this season. We'll talk about that. But yeah, we're going to do over the wall. We're going to talk about like the NFL draft coming up. We'll do NBA playoffs. We're going to try to keep it to once a week. If we can arrange 2 a week, we'll do 2 a week. We'll just see me and Scully get together and just talk. We're on Twitter. Just go to Over the Wall Pod. Go talk. Go follow. Interact with us over there. We'll be able to answer. We'll also answer in the comments of our YouTube page. We're just trying to build out our thing, and we know there's a lot of sports people talking about sports, but we want to be kind of the people to. We're kind of just real about how we feel about things. Like we don't really sugarcoat much. We're not going to sugarcoat much. I hate the New York Yankees. I absolutely hate that team. You'll know that.
Fuck the Yankees.
But I kept it as biased as possible because we're talking about predictions here. Okay. And I think the easiest way to just get it out of the way and then move everything on is we're going to talk about the AL East first. AL East is the best division in baseball. It's not even close at this point. There are 4 dynamic teams and one super young team that in about 4 or 5 years, we're going to hate that team because they're going to come around to be the team that we're all going to be worried about. We're going to go through, we're going to go one at a time, basically, who we have finishing in the last position, and we'll move up and talk about win totals. And then we'll maybe talk about what we like about that team, what we think is going to be really bad for that team, and move on from there. So we're going to start in the East. Scully, who is your 5th place team in finishing in the division?
Yeah, I think fifth place, not really a surprise. Baltimore Orioles. Have been winning 67 games this season. I think that's a respectable total. Look, here's the thing. I like what they've done in terms of a rebuild. I think they have a great manager in Hyde. He was the Cubs bench coach during their World Series run. I think he is definitely the right guy to help lead them through this rebuild. It just sucks that they're still in the rebuilding process. I think they're about a year or 2 away from really contending. And even then, you got 4 other teams in that division who are just juggernauts, all to their own. I mean, each one of those other teams could be division leaders in a lot of other divisions. So they really have a tough draw this year. But I think they're a team that can play. They can play spoiler. I think they can think maybe down the stretch in late August in September. You look at one of those other four teams. One of those teams might end up dropping 2 out of 3 against the Orioles, and that completely ruins their seeding chances in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have them actually worse. I have them finishing 162, 100 losses, 62 wins. They play 72 against the East. That is absolutely just a brutal draw for them. Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, John Means. I think Adley Ashman, when we see him, like if he is what everybody's talking about, I think is going to be a brilliant player. But overall, 72 games against the East, and then not to mention if you play the Astros, you play, I don't know who they're playing in the NL, but you play against tough teams. It's just going to wear down. And if they have an injury to anybody, that team is just implode. They just can't do it. I hope that I like the manager a lot. I hope the manager gets the chance to stick around and do the rebuild with that team. I just saw like in the offseason that they had plans to do like Carlos Correa for 10 years. And I was like, these are just like stupidity moves. Like you don't need that. You're building from it. So I have them winning 62 games. I don't have them going far. But I think you're 100% right. The Yankees is one of those teams that struggled really bad down the stretch against AL East. And I think with that team, definitely spoils. And going into that ballpark, Camden Yard is just literally a hitter's ballpark and anybody can fly. And if Cedric Mullins has the season he had last year or step up beyond that, he's MVP caliber. He's great. I will go on to my fourth place team. My fourth place. Speaking of the fourth place team, I have the New York Yankees at fourth place. I have them winning 86 games and 86 and 76. I don't think this team's an under 500 team. I don't think they lose a lot. I think overall, I'm one of the people that is very biased on this team, but I think they got worse in the offseason. I do not think they got better. I think they got worse. You can say whatever you want about Gary Sanchez as a defensive liability, but you just literally took an offensive bat out of your lineup that could crack a home run any chance he got, and you replaced him with defensive-minded catchers that don't have bats. That's a bad thing. And then you also a 36-year-old third baseman, a 32-year-old first baseman that didn't have a great year, half of the year in New York. Aaron Hicks, as he stays healthy, ISK or whatever they call him. I can't think
Isaiah Kinner-Falefa, I think is how you pronounce the name.
That's a gap shortstop. When you had all this, we got Story, which is crazy to me, but we got when Correa, Story, Baez, all these shortstops were on the market. They needed a shortstop. They're so big on their prospect. Clint Frazier, can I say something? Didn't work out for you. Sometimes prospects don't pay out, but they have so many money in Volpe and these other shortstops. I don't know if they pay off. Cole, I think Cole was a shell of himself after the sticky stuff. He was down in the stretch. He did good. He's still a good pitcher. But they do not have a number 2, a number 3. If Severino's good and doesn't get injured, maybe. But I think with this division, in those dog days of August, I swear, I think Donaldson breaks down. I think he becomes a toxic person in that dugout. I don't think they work well with him. Judge is playing for a contract at this point. If he stays healthy, they have so many big guys that is just going to break down. I just do not see it. I see him 86 and 76. Somebody said they were going to be below 500. I think that's absolutely insane. I think the team is good enough, but I just think they're going to play some hard places. What do you have as your fourth place team?
I have them. It's the same. I have the Yankees, but I have them in 90 wins, and I have them in 90 wins for one simple reason, and that's their new hitting coach, Lawson. Dylan Lawson, remember that name. A lot of talk coming out of Yankees fandom they've been impressed by what he's been able to do with these hitters in spring training. Apparently, there's been a lot more emphasis on contact rather than power, and that's the best thing that this lineup the best thing that could have happened to this lineup, because you have guys like DJ LeMahieu, who I think has been a very good piece to this lineup. I think he's really been the glue that has held this lineup together. Been the guy who can get on base, get around the bases, score easily, and also hit home runs when you need him to. But again, like you said, in this AL East, 70+ games against Toronto, Tampa, and Boston, once you get down the stretch, a lot of these older guys, they're going to break down. And also, you talk about Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres was supposed to be this renaissance guy. They got him in the Chapman trade with Chicago back in 2016, and now all of a sudden, all the talk this offseason has been, okay, where is he getting traded to? Oh, he's being flipped for Matt Olson. Nope, Matt Chapman. Nope, Correa. Like, he's been the centerpiece of so many hypothetical trades that Brian Cashman has never brought to the table. Seems like Cashman a couple years ago was always the high roller in terms of free agency and trades, and now he doesn't even have enough money to make a bid. So I'm honestly mystified as to what's going on in that front office. I don't know what kind of role Hal Steinbrenner is playing in things these days. But I think with Lawson as a new hitting coach, they're going to be better in terms of in terms of contact. They're going to have a lot of power, of course. But I think when push comes to shove in a stacked American League, I don't think they make the playoffs. Not with three other teams in that division. Not with teams like Houston, Seattle out west, Texas geared up this season, and then of course you got the White Sox and somehow the Twins and the Tigers as well. Because there's so many teams in the American League that I think could play spoiler to the Yankees going down the stretch. I think they fall victim to that at some point, and that causes their ultimate downfall.
Yeah, absolutely. The hitting coach out. If that's great, that works out for them. I just think there's a lot of egos in there. They need to see the ball fly.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Who you got finishing third?
Finishing third, I got the Red Sox. I got the Red Sox at 92 wins. Here's the thing. I think that last year's team definitely overperformed. They got really hot down the stretch, which is what they needed to do. They were able to save themselves from missing out on the postseason entirely, and Alex Cora just managed the hell out of that team the last month of the season and into the postseason. And in terms of the offseason, didn't really do a whole lot aside from the Story edition. I think the Trevor Story edition is more of a long-term thing rather than a right now move, because when you think about it, you got Bogarts' option coming up next year. If he opts out, Story takes over short. If he doesn't, Story can take over at second, and you deal with that once you deal with that. But I think the Red Sox, very much a lateral move from this season to the next. Sale's not going to be ready by the start of the year. He's going to come back whenever he comes back. The bullpen is a big question mark, but I think just based off how good of a manager Alex Cora is, he's going to be able to rally this team together at different points during the season, because they're going to go through slumps like we saw last year. There's going to be times where we drop 2 out of 3 to Minnesota or Texas or some other hot, streaky, up-and-coming team. Cora's going to give them the kick in the ass they need to get into the playoffs. How far they go in the playoffs, about as far as I think Alex Cora and that lineup can take them. But I think at the end of the day, they get third place. They could absolutely win the division if a couple of guys perform the way they did last season. Then there's also the nightmare scenario where a lot of guys come crashing down to earth. Hopefully they don't. But I got them at 92 wins. I think that's a pretty safe prediction for them.
So this is where we disagree. My third place finisher is the Rays. I have them at 90 and 72. I think they take a step back this year. I think they lost some key pieces. I'll touch on the Red Sox stuff in my next one. But overall, I think the Rays, I think the magic doesn't wear off, but I think the bodies that they're burning under Tropicana Field for sacrifices is finally going to catch up to them. That team doesn't make any sense. They're able to give fucking people away left, right, and center. Give trade, doesn't matter. They were going to trade Austin Meadows in the middle of this offseason. What are we how do you get away with this and still be a good team? Their analytics department is really good, but I think overall, I think they are going to fall. I think they're at 90 and 72. Still a great team. I still think they're going. I just think their moves, the pitching, if they get to the postseason, they're going to be burned out like they always are because they waste all these pitching arms. They can never win the big one. They overanalyze too much. I just think overall, because I think there's two teams in this division that got better, and I'll explain that in a second. So my 2-place finisher is the Red Sox. I don't have them winning. I don't have them winning the division. I have them 91 and 71. I think a game better than the Rays. I don't think they're any. I will say I agree with you, the rotation, but we didn't have Chris Sale all last year.
Mhm.
And 2 starters on our team were Garrett Richards and Martin Perez. Those are the 2. We replaced them with, I think, Tanner Houck for a full season, Michael Wacha, Rich Hill. If we have to do a rotation of those people, I think those are better options than Perez. I thought
I
Perez was a
agree.
freaking liability. I thought he was a crazy person. I hope they keep stretching out Whitlock because I think Whitlock was a starter at some when their systems. He had Tommy John. I think he could come back to that form and become a pitcher. Jake,
If that happens, it'll be more of an opener thing.
you're right, and I'm cool with that. I'm totally cool with that. Jake Diekman, I think, is going to be a strong addition to our thing. I've just learned over the past few seasons, especially after Mookie Betts, in Heim we trust. I have to go with that because I don't know anything else. I don't know the analytics department like he knows them, but he knows who he wants and who he gets. And getting Trevor Story, I think, is massive. I think we re-sign Bogarts next season, and I think we extend Devers because JD's money will be off the books. And that team, I didn't put in my predictions, but I'll say it here. I think Devers has a shot to be AL MVP. I think the dude is the most. Is he great defensively? No, I wish we could kind of teach him first base and get somebody else somebody else up in our third base system because he kind of scares me from time to time. But overall, the dude's power today as we're recording this, hit one that was near his shin, like 400 feet. The dude's
golf swing.
His golf swing, he's crazy. He has so much power. Our lineup got better. We replaced Hunter Renfroe with JBJ. Terrible choice. But we replaced Arroyo, which is still in our lineup, but Marwin Gonzalez, all these second base problems with Trevor Story. He has to bat 5th in this lineup. If Kiki returns to who he is, Verdugo is who he is, we have a shot. Our starters have always been questionable at best the last few years. Even when we won the World Series, it was questionable. I think we have still a shot. We lost Edward Rodriguez, but me and you both know that's a 5-inning guy that sometimes had it, sometimes didn't. So I'm actually good that we didn't waste the money on him.
He was massively overpaid in free agency.
Yes. So I'm glad we didn't pay for him. I think they win second place. Who's your second place team?
Second place finisher, I have Tampa. I have Tampa winning 95 this year. I think the sacrifice under Tropicana is going to last for at least one more season. I personally, I think I really believe in the system that they have going on over there. Like it's almost unbelievable what they're able to do, like day in and day out. I think Wander Franco, we didn't see a ton. Like he was there for a good chunk of the season, and he made the most of it, especially in the playoffs. He absolutely killed us in the playoffs. But this season, like, don't be surprised if he walks away with the batting title, walks away with MVP. I mean, he is just one of the most pure prospects I have seen in such a long time in the game of baseball. I mean, he is absolutely unbelievable. So I think he's really going to be the spark plug that really powers this lineup. I don't think I ultimately think they don't. Ultimately they don't trade Austin Meadows. I think he still has a lot left to give this team. And I think in terms of pitching, you have a lot of young pitchers that are going to be a year older and a year better. You have McClanahan, you have Baz, you have Patino, you have all these really great arms, especially in that bullpen. Who in the playoffs they're going to be a little unreliable because I think Kevin Cash does not do a good job at managing his players, even though they seem to have an overabundance of talent there. I think it's kind of the inverse of Boston. They can manage what they have really well in the playoffs, but in the regular season, there's just such an overabundance of talent. Even when they do get in their own way, it always seems to work out for them. So I really think with Tampa, I think they're going to continue their success. I don't think they win the division this year, but I definitely think they continue to sustain success and get to 95 wins.
All right, Scully, who's winning this division? I think we
Yeah,
said it together. We're drinking the
the
Kool-Aid.
Toronto.
It's
Yeah,
the Blue Jays.
it's the Blue Jays, and which is, I mean, they were fun. They were fun as hell to watch last season. I mean, from when they were in Florida to when they were in Buffalo, and now being back in Toronto, this team is absolutely electrifying to watch. They have somehow, I mean, you look at like 5 years ago, they were coming off of an ALCS appearance, and then all of a sudden they kind of just fall back to earth. They do like a mini retooling rebuild. They get all these really good prospects Vladdy and Biggio and Gurriel and all them, and now they're probably the best hitting team in the league. I mean, every single person in that lineup has something unique to give. And on top of that, you add Matt Chapman, who didn't play all that well in 2021, but I really think he has a chance to lend something really, really good to 2022. Apparently, they're going to end up trading for Jose Ramirez at some point, and if that happens, cancel the season because just give them the fucking trophy already. They were able to get Jose Barrios, lock him down. They get Kevin Gausman, who I think is one of the underrated signings in free agency. Gausman had a terrific season last year in San Francisco. Comes over to Toronto. I think he'll sustain some success there. Really, not that many questions in this Toronto roster that I think will prevent them from winning this division. I think the power and the ability to provide so many extra base hits per game in this lineup, I think they win the division, and they are the favorites to come out of the American League for the World Series.
What record did you have them as?
Oh, I have them at 97 and 65.
97 wins. Okay. I also have them winning. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I have them at 93 wins. I think a little bit plays into a factor that they're not playing in those minor league ballparks, the Buffaloes and stuff like that, where the balls were flying out of there. Like I remember we played, it was just like I think there was like 4 home runs in the first couple innings. Like it was a nuts field in that field. So I think within Toronto, I think the vaccination thing is going to play a lot of factor in Toronto. They're playing like home field ball where if you're not vaccinated, you can't play there. So if that's true, like if that sticks, there's some players I know in the Red Sox. I know some players in the Yankees are not going to be able to play
I
there.
believe. I think Judge is a big one.
Yeah, I think again, I don't speak for them, but they didn't answer the questions when asked. But overall, I think that's going to play a factor. I think they do win. I think they are the top team probably out of the AL. But I think like Chapman, I think is going to strike out the most. I did love what Vlad Jr. said. I said that last season was the trailer. This is the movie. Like what a badass line for that is, especially somebody like I'm like that's what I like to hear.
And
Honestly, just
if it doesn't go well, we'll have a lot of references to bounce off of that.
yeah, a lot of just what I will say is we spend a little time on the AL East because this is our home. We'll speed up the rest of them, not as much talking. But what I will say is with the AL East, those 4 teams are just going to punch each other all year long. It's going to be a draining season, so that's why I don't have them as high as you have them because that's again a lot of plays that they have to play each other. But it's going to make the division a lot of fun. I think overall they're going to play really well. But yeah, it's going to be a dogfight, absolute dogfight in that division.
Yeah.
I think Kikuchi is a terrible pick. Honestly, I think that was one of the worst signings. I think the ball is going to fly off that man's hand, especially with all the division.
He's been pitching pretty well in spring training, so I'll hold like my opinions on him until I see him in the regular season. But like, I think he's a guy. I think he's a guy who will either burn out early or be a consistent like 3rd or 4th day starter for them down the stretch.
And GMs, I'll just say this: if their dads played in the big leagues, draft them. That's what I would suggest for anybody. Just draft them if they play. We'll be a little faster on these other ones. We won't. Oh, just real quick, our banner, our graphics, basically. This is what mine looks like. Basically, there they are. pretty normal. I think that's pretty standard. I have a tight race. I think those last few days are going to be crazy. And this is Scully's choices. There's a little bit more
Yeah,
wins.
and yeah, and I think the reason I have them so high is that I think this division is so stacked. I think
I
against
agree.
every other division and in interleague play, they're gonna end up smashing everyone else. This is far and away the best division in baseball.
We will not spend a ton of time on this next division because, golly, I wish the Red Sox could trade with another Sox for a second and just play. We're going to go AL Central. We're going to go pretty quickly on these because I don't have a ton to say overall. My last place team for the division, I have Kansas City. I have the Royals. I have the Royals finishing last, but tell you the truth, I'm going to do a little cheat here. They're tied. I have the exact same record. I have 75 and 87. I have the Royals and I have the Tigers back to back. I think they tie in this division. I think they're both. I don't think I'm not drinking the Tigers Kool-Aid of being this team. I think Baez was a bad pickup. I've said that from when the Mets took him. I don't think he has the same sparkle he did in Chicago. The man needs to be back in Wrigley tomorrow. I don't think he has this. I think that's not a hitter's ballpark. I think that ballpark is gross. It is too large. His swing won't work as well in there. I think they have a lot of young talent like Torkelson and stuff like that will be, but I think their pitching staff, Eduardo was a bad pickup, overpriced as somebody that cheered him on. He dead arm early time. When you could have had Correa and you got Baez, like I think that's just a downgrade. Miguel's old. They're too young. And the Royals, I'll just do both back to back. I think the Royals, they have a lot of young, impressive talent. I think Greinke's not going to do great. He couldn't even pitch in the ALC. He probably needed to retire. I think the biggest star is Bobby Witt. Like we're all going to like looking at Bobby Witt this year. That's the whole draw to the Royals. But overall, that team is like 3 or 4. Both teams are like 2 or 3 years away from being the next team, and they also have to play in the AL. So they're going to play a lot of teams that are better than them. We have to play them second week, like the first 2 games, one of our 2 series. I think we kill them. I think we absolutely murder them. If you don't have them tied, I don't expect you to have them tied. But do you have your who's your fifth? And
Yeah, my fifth is actually the newly named Cleveland Guardians. I've had 68 wins, and I have them at them for a couple reasons. I think this team is plummeting downhill fast. This is a franchise that just ever since they won 104 games or whatever and blew that 2-0 lead to the Yankees, the franchise has been broken. They can't seem to get out of their own way. They can't seem to figure it out. They saw the writing on the wall, and they started trading off their guys. They traded Lindor to New York for a pretty pitiful return, if you ask me. They probably should have traded Jose Ramirez at this point. Shocking that they haven't yet. They'll probably wait until the deadline when they're really screwed. And even, as much as I like Shane Bieber, I think Shane Bieber is going to rack up all the strikeouts he wants this season. But guess what? He can only pitch every 5th day, and who knows how dead his arm is going to be by August. And you might have to shut him down for the whole season.
This may be
just
our biggest difference in the division. This is crazy. I did not see this one coming.
Yeah, I just don't. I'm sorry, Scott Harvey. I don't really have much faith in your team this year. I think they have a mass sell-off at the deadline. I think young guys like Tristan McKenzie, skinny guy built like me, he has not impressed me at all. Zach Plesac, he's been very iffy of late. I picked up their closer in fantasy, so I hope he does well at least. But overall, I just see so much inconsistency, and I think they're going to really fall prey in their division to some of these younger up-and-coming teams who are really hungry and have that drive and passion to win. Teams that are better managed than them as well. So, sorry, Cleveland, you get 68 wins this year from me.
This is gonna be so funny because we have so many difference of like this division. This division is always a crapshoot. Everybody's always wrong. Twins were going to win it last year. Remember that? Who's your
Yeah,
fourth
no.
place?
Fourth place, I got Kansas City. I got Kansas City at 78 wins. Yeah, I was very impressed.
10 wins more.
I was very impressed with what I saw from Kansas City at the end of last year, even though they are manned by Mike Matheny, who is kind of like the Charlie Brown of managing at this point. He this is a very good team, very young team. I think they made the smart move in not trading Whit Merrifield. Whit Merrifield has really been the centerpiece of this franchise. He's been a leader in that locker room. You got Salvador Perez as well, age 31. He's really coming into his prime. He might have another phenomenal year before he starts, trending downhill. And then, of course, you got the crown jewel of that organization and Bobby Witt. I mean, I am so excited to watch him play every day. I mean, there's been talks of him maybe being the next Trout. His measurables match up to Trout, except the guy he plays shortstop instead of center field. I could not be more surprised. I am very very eager to watch the young Royals team this year. I think they're going to bring a lot of good passion, good drive every single day. And I don't think they'll be buy. I think they'll be one of the teams that'll hold at the deadline. They won't buy, they won't sell, but I think they're going to be in a good position going into next season.
All right. Well, you're insanity, so we'll just leave it there. My third place, I have the Twins. The third place is the Twins. Yeah, that's right. I have the Indians finishing in the top two, and I'll explain that in a second.
The Guardians.
The Guardians. Sorry. Oh gosh, we're getting canceled already. My bad. My whole entire life we called it one thing. Guardians. No, I have the Twins. I don't think I have them at 80 and 82. I think they get close. I don't think they have enough staff to make that run. I think Correa's a good pick, but really weird pick, especially with opt-outs. I don't even know if he's there the full season. Like, that's a question mark for me. I think Gio Urshela was a good grab from them. I think Gary Sanchez, put him as DH and let him smash, I think is crazy good. I don't know why you gave him. You basically gave up Gary Sanchez to get Gary Sanchez. You gave up Mitch Garver to get Gary Sanchez. They both smash and they both strike out a ton. And Gary, he was better defensively. So weird choice for me, but overall I have them at 80. I don't think the staff is what holds together, and I think Max Kepler, I think a lot of their off-field they just need to give up on. I don't think they're there. Sano is getting to Pablo Sandoval and Mo Vaughn territory. The boy just keeps getting bigger and his neck keeps disappearing. I'm sorry, the dude can mash, but I'm thinking there's a belt pop coming sometime soon. And I'm a big guy, I can say that. I'm telling you, Sano, stay away from the little Debbies. Dude, good Lord. I don't know what's happening, but stop. But yeah, Twins win third, and they missed the playoffs, but I don't think they win a positive record. Who's your third place?
My third is also Minnesota, but I have the inverse record. I have them 82 and 80. I think
the coach.
Yeah, I think the Correa pickup at first glance was kind of rough, but on second glance, you think about it this way: this is essentially a 1-year deal with opt-ins that can become a 3-year deal. If this team tanks, they can just ship him off to wherever they want, grab a prospect or two in return, and then just keep fighting and probably end up with the same record. This is a very interestingly run organization. They're in that weird fringe area between wanting to contend and wanting to just give up everything. They have too much talent to completely give up and sell off, but they don't have enough to really contend. So they're in that really hellish fringe territory that I would personally hate to be in as a baseball fan. But there's a lot of great. I agree with you. I think Urshela was a great pickup. I think Sanchez is going to add a lot of pop to that stadium. I think fans are going to really enjoy watching his homers sail over the outer fence, and then they're going to want to kill themselves watching him strike out 5 times a game. So definitely going to be a lot of bipolar attitudes this season in Minnesota.
I know, just to let you know, Target Field's garbage park. If we're being real, it's trash. They built it like it's the Mall of America. It's so weird. It has so many layers. Not a fun ballpark. Not a fun
And
ballpark.
I've now been to the Mall of America, so I know what you're talking about.
I'm going this year to Target Field, so I'm going to enjoy it like at one point. But overall, I think that maybe I'll change my mind once I go. But it looks bad on TV. Second place teams. Now second place. Do you want me to go with my Cleveland Guardians pick?
Please, I would love to hear it.
I think Cleveland Guardians are going to be that team. I don't think they're going to be crazy. I don't think they win. I have them at 82 and 80, so I could easily see them being fifth. But I think their pitching staff is what's going to hold them. A lot of young guys, a lot of guys that you may not like, but I think they're good overall. If Shane Bieber is healthy, they still have a lot of players on the team that can still mash. Like, they're still going to be able to hit the ball. I think Jose Ramirez is one of those top players. I don't think he gets traded. I think they're even talking about extending him at this point. Which
yeah, but they're lowballing him, so that's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, they're going to lowball him. The Cleveland Guardians. They don't have a ton of money. But overall, I think who is it? Reyes and Wright. I think
Fremio Reyes.
I think they have enough team that's going to be able to survive. That park is very friendly to their that kind of bat. It's also helpful for their pitching staff. I think Bieber could literally win the Cy Young if he stays healthy. Dude's kind of good. That's my take on it. But yeah, I have them at 82. Again, last year Twins were supposed to win this division if we're all correct. Like, people came out and said Twins have this division lock or second place because the White Sox. And they finished last almost? They were terrible. So anything can happen in the Central. Who do you got?
I'm buying into the Tigers hype, mainly because I have one of my best friends. Shout out to Jonah Blatt, one of my best buddies in college. He's a huge Tigers fan, so he's been a good, very, very much gave me like an insulin boost of Tigers content every few weeks. But yeah, I really buy into what they're doing over there. And it starts and ends with AJ Hinch. Them getting AJ Hinch to manage that ball club, I think, was a big get.
Trash can.
It was a big get. Save the trash cans. I'm sure they'll pop up again at some point, though. Maybe like the ALCS in like 3 years.
Beltran going to be his hitting coach.
But yeah, I think the Baez move was interesting. It was definitely one where I think they knew they couldn't get Correa because Scott Boras was really pushing for Correa to get a short-term deal so that he could reap the benefit in a couple of years from now when he gets that long-term extension. But I think Baez is still a pretty good get. He's very much a guy who's going to sell tickets. That's what he's there. That's what he's there primarily to do, to sell tickets, to put asses in the seats at Comerica Park. But I think their young pitching staff is going to be what's the surprise this season, because you got Casey Mize, who I really like, Matt Manning as well. You got Tariq Skubal, who I think is okay, but I think he's shown flashes of being really, really solid. And then of course you got Spencer Torkelson, who I really believe can be a franchise player for that team. And then there's just so many other guys around that clubhouse who I think have really bought into what AJ Hinch is selling. And I really think, combine all that together, that gets them to 83 wins. Of course, not even within sniffing distance of the playoffs still, but they'll still get with positive record, and they're probably a year or two away from really contending. But they're going to be, much like Kansas City, they'll be in a really good position down the line to really make some noise.
Oh, okay. So basically, in my world, instead of your crazy world you're living in, I have them separated by like 5-6 games. So anything could possibly happen in this division. So
well, I mean, like you could just swap like teams. Look, teams 2 through 5 in this division, you can put in any order, and you could sell it pretty much any way you wanted to, because we all know who the best team in this division is, and it's not even close.
Yeah. Well, together, it's the White Sox.
Yeah,
the White Sox are the best team. It's always one team in the Central rises to the best, and the rest have to just be the cannon fodder for everybody. Like, it's crazy where it works out.
And they each trade off every few years.
Just to be unclear for mine, this is prior to the news about Lance Lynn. I think it just came out today that he was going to miss as much as he's missing. I have him not as a crazy win. I have him 87 and 75.
I have him at 93. So,
and that's okay. So we're both you're a little bit higher, and that makes sense. I think overall, that owner is the cheapest owner in baseball. That is insanity. And again, Oakland still exists, but at least he is just so cheap where he goes. I think this team has so many potentials. I think Luis Robert could be an MVP caliber if he's healthy and performs to where he's supposed to be. I think Moncada, I can't,
Jimenez.
Jimenez. I think with Cease, they lost Crochet, right?
Yeah, Crochet is Tommy John, but that's what happens when you try to start a guy fresh out of college who's been throwing for 4 years anyway. So that's just dumb on their part.
Right. But they have a good pitching staff. They have a thing. And then they get to play 19, 18 games against each of this freaking garbage division. So their record's going to help them. And that's probably why your record's a little probably closer than mine. They do have to last like a month or two without Lynn, which I think Lynn is probably their top arm besides
Giolito,
which can't get paid an extra $500,000 or $200,000 to be without arbitration. So, like, overall, great team. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to be one of those teams that the East is going to have to battle through wild cards. They will too, but they'll get home field and all this stuff because they played an easy division, and there it is. Your thoughts on the White Sox?
Yeah, I mean, far and away the best team in the division. There's been a lot of hype around Dylan Cease this season, him potentially being a sleeper candidate for Cy Young. Personally, I don't quite see it. I think he's had a lot of rough patches, especially last season, but he's done well so far. Yeah, I mean, he's off to a good start here in the spring, but like I think the strength of this lineup is in the batting order because you now have an outfield of Luis Robert, Eloy Jimenez, and now you have AJ Pollock in that lineup, who can be a reliable bat for a good chunk of the season, but they do lack depth there, and I think if they suffer even a couple injuries, they could be more towards your win total and an early exit in the playoffs if they're not careful. But you also have Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal. These are all guys who can be any one of those guys in that lineup can be the hero on any given day. I think that's the beauty of this lineup. They are held back, however, by old-time Tony La Russa.
I was about to say the same thing.
Managing them. Him in the Southside Connect jerseys is like the biggest mind fuck ever, because it's like your grandpa's trying to be hip and failing.
It's my favorite thing. Him in the City Connects. It's my favorite jersey.
But I think this team is such a weird mixture of old and new. It weirdly enough works. But I think this team is going to be it's limited by La Russa's management because he is the absolute wrong choice to lead a franchise like this, and in a city like Chicago, where tradition and swagger is what led the Cubs to their World Series 6 years ago. The White Sox seem to be doing the exact opposite of that, sticking to rigid tradition while having players that do not fit that style at all. So they're still going to win the division, but they're not winning anything else without a different manager.
Well, that team just needs to embrace the bat flips, the throwing, the stuff like that, and just be as
and
loud.
They're not going to do that with old man La Russa yanking the chain. So.
Go to another division. I know we're going to shock people again. I'm going to be the shock person. Scully's going to be the by the book guy. We're going to the AL West. This is updated from previous stuff and probably even worse. I think it could be worse than this right now. Last place is the Oakland A's. For me, I think we agree on that. I have them losing over 100 games. I have them losing 102.
I have them losing 101.
And I think it could go even worse with Frankie Montas getting traded. I think this team is going to be the absolute worst thing in baseball. I will hate watching this team when the Red Sox play because I think it's just going to be an onslaught. And then it's also going to be that team that we're going to go in there and we're probably going to drop one game and I'm going to want to rip my face off because I can't. The team is so cheap. Max Scherzer is making more money right now than the entire payroll of the team. One player versus 25. That's nuts. That team moved to Las Vegas tomorrow. You are the cheapest. I hate Moneyball. This is a joke. Even Scott Hadenberg couldn't even start on, wouldn't want to play for this team. Like, that's how bad this team is going to be. They have nothing. They just lost Sean Manaea, which helps the Padres, which we'll talk about in a second. But overall, terrible. This is going to be the worst team in baseball. Worst team in baseball by far, in my opinion. I think there's another team that could contend, but this is really bad.
Yeah, I don't have them as the worst team this season, but it's just because I somehow have, by the margin of a couple games, have more faith in them than two other franchises being run right now, because those franchises are deep in rebuilds. But look, this rebuild it's been a long time coming. I think last couple seasons they've thrown their best roster at the American League, and they've come home empty in the playoffs every single time. So I'm not surprised this is where we're at, but a $33 million salary total is abysmal for the game of baseball. It should force the league to implement a cap floor. Forget a salary cap. There should be a salary floor. You should be forced to have at least $40 or $50 million on the table to field a damn team. I mean, this is absolutely horrendous. I feel sorry for Oakland fans. You guys do not deserve this. Have fun watching Frankie Montas throw his arm out by June, and then get a minimal trade in return of maybe a prospect, and then a cap dump for him, and y'all are gonna be in even worse shape than you are right now. But hey, Sean Murphy might hit 40 home runs this season at catcher, so get that to look forward to.
Not in that stadium, not a chance. Who you got in second?
You mean
fourth?
Fourth, I got the Angels. I got the Angels winning 77 games this season. Look, the Los Angeles Angels, say what you will about teams going through a rebuild. This team should have been going through a rebuild 3 years ago. I am absolutely
Scully.
Yeah. What else do we need to say about this organization that refuses to support the greatest player in our game right now, Mike Trout? They should have traded him 3-4 years ago, because I'm sorry, they have no plan to succeed. They have no pitching except for Noah Syndergaard, who is way past his top value. You put your faith in Alex Cobb last year for some reason. You had Matt Harvey, pitching for you a couple years ago. That didn't work out well. You just designated for assignment Justin Upton, who you signed to a 5-year deal 4 years ago, and now you're paying $26 million for him not to play for your team this year. This is one of the most poorly run organizations in baseball. It is absolutely disgusting how, since you got your asses kicked by the Royals in 2014, you have done so little to build your franchise around Mike Trout. It is absolutely sickening what we are seeing. They are not going above 500 this season. Even if they do, they're not sniffing the playoffs. This is the definition of mediocrity on display.
You are nutty right now.
Yep, absolutely.
I have a person in the back that I think needs to hold. We talked about his twins. He's helping run the show, and he stood back there calmly. You're going to come in here and talk about the Angels this way? They made moves. We'll talk about them, but because I have them higher up. And surprise, I have.
Congratulations! You took a $215 bath to have Anthony Rendon on your team, and what has he done?
I have them making the playoffs this year. And
oh my God!
I am drinking the Kool-Aid. My fourth place team is the team that spent $580 million this offseason, and that is the Texas Rangers. I'm sorry, this team did not get better. This team got awkward. You have two great middle infielders. That's great. And you have John Gray, But overall, the Rangers aren't going to be much better than what they've been. I have them at 70 and 92. Their pitching staff is still garbage. That ballpark is gross. That ballpark is so players hate playing there because
They
it's so
caught
hard.
on fire recently.
It's so hard to hit. And if you're gonna ever build a place, how about your right field doesn't do it in like a weird indention in farther into the field? Like what are we like it was built by idiots. I think Simeon takes a downgrade. I think Seager takes a downgrade in that stadium. I don't think they play too much. They have too much power, too much stuff on them. I think Garcia, stuff like that. I think overall, I just think we take a downgrade. I don't think they win. This is where this is where I'm gonna make you super angry. My third place team is the Seattle Mariners. I think the Seattle Mariners are young, really young. I think Robbie Ray is one of the worst signings ever. I think now let's not look at ourselves. Let's not look at ourselves and act like Robbie Ray was this all-star for 7 years and then got this contract. Robbie Ray showed up one day, tight ass pants, and was able to pitch really well in the AL East. And I think he's going to do the classic move. He's going to go to T-Mobile Park and get his shit rocked at night in and night out. Like, I don't think he's going to be that great. I don't know why I just still don't know why Toronto didn't try to keep him. I think the change of pace is going to hurt him. I think there's a lot of young talents. They're probably my favorite team to watch this season because I think they're going to be young and fun. But I think there's a lot of holes. I think they don't win enough. I think they do have a winning record. I think they're 82 and 80. But this is also, you want to talk about worst run franchises? You want to have that conversation? This team won 90 games and they traded Graveman away. Don't act like this ownership and GM won't trade somebody away when they need him like most near the better end.
Because Paul Sewald's a better closer. Sorry.
Bro, not last season. We'll just say that I have Seattle.
You see Graben in the playoffs? See Graben in the playoffs?
I did. I have Seattle, so I know where you're going here. Who's your second place team?
You mean third place team?
Third place.
Yeah, I have the Rangers at third place.
That's nutty.
I have them at 82 wins. I think they do get better, but this is one of the most frustrating things that happened in the offseason. You're the Texas Rangers. You've committed to a full rebuild at this point. You have good solid pieces all along your system. You're about 3-4 years away from really getting something. And what do? You mortgage your future by getting Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. You signed John Gray from Colorado as well. That's a move I don't think has been talked about as much because John Gray. We'll see how he does outside of Coors. That'll be something to watch this season. So I think they do get better, but this is not a move that's set up for long-term success. I mean, this is a team that decided to skip several levels of the rebuilding process and go right to contention. Why would you do this when there's already two other teams set up for contention, a third already committed to a full rebuild, and a fourth in the Angels, who you have no idea what they're going to do any given year? So why are you all of a sudden claiming to be in contention, signing all these big free agents? I can't remember the name of whoever the Rangers owner is, but he is nuttier than either of us. So yes, they are better, and they're 2 games over 500. But overall, I have no idea what the thought process behind their future is going to be.
I don't know why they have Leiter coming up. I don't know why they didn't just go snag Robbie Ray or Gossman for their staff.
Because they got John Gray, Cody.
You're right. A ballpark that was terrible to hit and pitching, and now this one's even worse. So who's your second place team?
Second place team. You have the opinion that the Voodoo Magic runs out in Tampa this year. I have the opinion that the Voodoo starts to run a little low in Houston this year. So I got the Astros in second place at 92 wins. Here's the thing.
This man has who in first place?
We'll get to that in a second. Look, I think Jordan Alvarez is probably the scariest person to face one of the scariest people to face in baseball. I think Kyle Tucker is a phenomenal player, and I think that there's a lot of other good pieces. Like, of course, you still have Bregman on the squad. Got Yuli Gurriel. I don't know how effective he's going to be. He's late 30s. He's getting older. I don't know how effective he's going to be in the future. I think Brantley's going to take a little bit of a downturn this season. But overall, this is still a very good roster. The question is going to be pitching. Framer Valdez and Luis Garcia are going to perform for the entire season. The X factor is Verlander. How is Verlander going to come back? Is Verlander going to be the pitcher he was, or is he also going to take a little bit of a downturn? I think he is really the X factor. I think if he competes at the Cy Young level that he was competing at before the injury, I think Houston can win the division and maybe be the favorites going into the playoffs. If not, all of a sudden you only got two quality starters there for Houston, and then if you're in a playoff series against heavy hitters out of the AL East or even the White Sox, what are you going to do? So I think Houston is definitely playing with fire a little bit here. You've lost Correa, you've lost Springer, Altuve is still there. I don't hate Altuve so much. I'm trying to stay objective here. But yeah, there's still a good squad. I got him at 92 wins, but I think there's another team in that division who's going to overtake them this season.
So listen, back on planet Earth, everybody. I don't know if everybody else is attending this. Planet Earth here. He has them at 92 wins, so that means he has the next team higher than 92 wins. What the fuck are you doing? Here's my thing. My number 2 team is the Angels. My number 2 team is the Angels. I think they are 87 and 75. I have them making the playoffs. I think overall, I think Rendon, if healthy, again, these are all if healthy, that's anybody, but if healthy, him, Fletcher, I love the signing of Wade. I think the Yankees misused him. Tyler Wade, Jared Walsh, and then there's these two little outfielders that are kind of weird sometimes. Their name is Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. If both play, if Ohtani plays what he was, nuts player, could win MVP again. Trout, if healthy, I don't think he runs as often as he did in the past, but I think he still smashes. I love the signing of Noah Syndergaard. I think Syndergaard is going to be a big plus for them this season. Him and Shohei 1-2. I think Sandoval, if he takes a step forward, he's also on the thing. They also got, I can't think of his name. Michael Lorenzen.
Yeah, Cincinnati legend.
I think if he's in the thing, I think they have one of the best closers. They also brought in Aaron Loop, and their bullpen, they kind of focused on pitching a lot. I think this team's a lot better than you put on paper. I understand that team is a little bit. I don't think Justin Upton's that bad of a move, honestly. I know the cut. I know the trade. I think they tried to move him. No one was buying.
I'm not disputing the cut. I'm disputing the fact that you paid this guy so much money. And now you're in a position where you have to just essentially take on all this money for him to not play. Like, I hate moves like this because it shows a lack of being able to think ahead and process the future clearly. Yes, this team is talented, but they have more holes than a block of Swiss cheese.
Who's your favorite team?
The Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, we paid Sandoval $95 million for 5 years, and he played on our team, what, one?
Absolutely.
We played stupid moves too.
Absolutely, but guess what? We've moved past that. I hate it.
Yeah, they're going to move past theirs. I think Adele.
They still got the same management, same ownership.
I think Adele, if he steps forward and becomes that good player, they have a really good team. Overall, I like them.
This team is all predicated on what ifs, and when a team is all predicated 100%. On what ifs, 95% of the time it goes the other way.
What ifs? You want to talk about what ifs? I think your entire first place team is full of what ifs. So go ahead, Scully. Tell me, who's your 2? Well, you already told me your 2. Who's your 1?
The Seattle Mariners are winning the American League West this season with 94 wins.
You're delusional.
Much like with what I said about Detroit, this starts and ends with Scott Service. Scott Service is one of the best managers in baseball, period. The way he had that team battling at the end of 2021 was unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, you had guys who you'd never heard of before, young guys who just came out of the woodwork. Guys like Cal Raleigh, Jake Fraley, Ty France, who was moved over from San Diego. These guys were playing like all-stars at the end of last year. And then the moves they made this season, I love the signing of Robbie Ray. Was a little bit of an overpay? Yeah, probably. But that's the price you're gonna pay to get a guy like that, to get a opening day pitcher on your squad. You essentially replace Yusei Kikuchi with Robbie Ray. I'm sorry, I'll take that move 9 times out of 10. You also trade for Jesse Winker, who a very good outfielder, and then you take on the salary of Eugenio Suarez, who is going to be blasting balls out of T-Mobile Park all season long. You have Jared Kelenic, who is going to be, I think, a very good young player this season, and then of course you have Julio Rodriguez, who might be the best player in baseball in about 3 years' time coming in. There are so many good young pieces to this Mariners team. Each one of them has a unique, not to go on Mission Possibly on us, a unique set of skills that best fits this Seattle Mariners lineup. I think Jerry Dipoto has gotten way too much hate for his decision making. He's really cleaned it up over the last couple of years. The decision not to trade Mitch Haniger is the reason why they're in this position. They stuck to Mitch Haniger, believed him to be the core of this franchise, and now he is the centerpiece of one of the best young teams in baseball. He's a phenomenal player as well, great outfielder, and I think he's going to lead. He's going to help lead this team to the fucking playoffs and win this division.
Haniger is the. I think they still should have got rid of Haniger. I think that's nuts to even say that. I don't think he's that good of a player. Stand by that. And then
He's clutch. He's
you're
one of
relying
those
on a guy. Yeah,
in
you're
this
relying
league.
on a guy that's a 250 hitter. Like whatever, I get it. That's baseball nowadays. But yours is full. You're complaining about minus what if. That what if. I'll tell you what the what if is. Their pitching staff. Their pitching staff is a full what if. If there are any take the turn up, if all their young players can hit. And guess what? I can solve Jesse Winker real fast. It's called left-handed pitching. And what was the guy they brought up last year that just didn't even pan out, like didn't do well, but they overhyped him? What's his name? Starts with a K.
Kelenic, he's been crushing it in spring training. He's going to be one of the most well-rounded outfielders, young outfielders.
You know what? You know who's the top hitter for the Red Sox every year in spring training? One of them, Bobby Dahlbeck. But look what ends up happening. He doesn't do the great in the start. I'm saying,
I believe. Hey, you believe in Bobby D. Believe in Bobby D.
My number one team. It's a team that's been there forever. It's a team that keeps getting better. It's Houston. Mm-hmm. They're two pitching. If Verlander, again, if there's one pitcher that could pitch to 45 and be like the next like Nolan Ryan and stuff like that, it's Verlander 100%. I think he could do a CC move and not throw us for high heat, but that how he paints, great. They get Lance McCullers down the stretch at the end coming back. I know he has a setback right now. The two other pitchers, Kyle Tucker could be an MVP caliber. Alvarez is one of those players that could lead the league in RBIs this year. No question about it. Crazy. Altuve's Altuve, Bregman. I just think they have so many young talents. Their shortstop, I don't know, you're probably better than me, but their young shortstop coming out, I think the reason why they didn't pay Correa as much, like they didn't go above what Correa wanted, because I think they have a guy that's going to be better. Like I think the team just knows how to build a farm system at this point and where we're at. So I have Astros. I think the Astros, I have them winning 90 wins, 90 and 72. I don't think they're over the top. I don't think they're great, but overall, I think they're there. I don't think we shared what we had last time, so let me just look real quick. Mine, AL West, which this is gonna be fun to look back on, especially mid-season when we come back together and talk about what's happening and see the massive difference where we're at. And I bet I'm right. So that's the AL. So basically, let's go to our NL, our friends. We'll go East. Who's your fifth place team in the East?
Ooh, yeah. This really wasn't the hard decision for me. It's the Washington Nationals. I love Juan Soto to death. I think he's the favorite for MVP this year in the National League. He's such a young, electrifying player. But nothing else has worked out for Washington since that title win. You lose Rendon, you lose Scherzer, you trade Scherzer for a pretty good return, in my opinion. I think that Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz are going to make an impact immediately for this Nationals team this season and into next season. But Victor Robles really hasn't become the player that they've wanted him to be. Carter Kieboom just cannot stay off the injured list. Josh Bell's going to have a good season, but I think I would not be surprised if he gets flipped at the deadline for more prospects. There's just so many things wrong with this franchise at this point. Strasburg, of course, he hasn't been able to stay healthy his whole career except for 2019. And of course, the 1 year he was healthy, they won the World Series with him. And then Patrick Corbin too. I mean, kind of wonder what's happened to him since the World Series. They've all just fallen back to earth, and it's kind of sad to see. But hey, Juan Soto is going to be electrifying. He might receive a lifetime contract from the Nationals at some point this season. So we'll see. But I have them at 70 wins and 92 losses. Not too abysmal, but nowhere near in contention.
Yeah, if I had to say anything to Juan Soto, don't sign that fucking deal at all to them. Like, go make your money. You'll make your money somewhere, but do not make it in that organization. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, we're still sitting here talking like that's a world champion 2 years ago. Like, they're the team after us that won it. Like, nutty to me. I would have never saw it coming. So, on the back of Josh Harrison? No, not Josh Harrison.
Josh, thank you so much.
No, who hit that clutch home run? I can't.
Howie Kendrick.
Howie Kendrick.
Howie Kendrick of all people, which is nuts.
Yeah. I have Washington too. Overall. 68 and 49 and 94. I have them 68 wins. The Nelson Cruz signing is just weird.
It's a ticket seller move. It puts asses in the seats.
It's so weird because he's close to 500. Is that what it is? Yeah, I have no idea why that move was made. I think I think their core three is pretty heavy, and then that's it where they're at. I don't see it going any further than that. My fourth place team is a step up. I think this division is going to be really good, honestly. One of mine doesn't really impact like some situations that just happened. But I have my next is 80 and 82 Miami Marlins. I have the Miami Marlins here. I think you can pretty much pencil in anybody there. I think their pitching staff is going to be crazy this good to be really. I think what we were just talking, what my co-host was, sipping on the Kool-Aid of a young team. This young pitching staff, I think, could lead to strikeouts, wins. I think they have a lot of good staff. It's the Miami formula. Don't pay a lot of money, get everything done, and then get these players. They have signed some weird players too. Like Garcia went there, I think, from the Brewers. I think Soler went there, which is, I think, it was weird.
He'll be back on the Braves by midseason.
Right. But overall, yeah, Miami's mine 82. I think they got some young. I think Jazz Chisholm is going to be one of the most exciting players to watch in baseball this year, because that kid doesn't give a fuck, and it's going to be a lot of fun. He's gonna get hit a lot by old pitchers. Like, they don't like that, but he's going to fling that bat all over the place if he hits them. So, and he's fast. He's so fast. What's your fourth place team?
Yeah, it's the Marlins. I have them a little bit lower at 75 wins, just because I think down the stretch, I think they're gonna. I think down the stretch when it comes to playoff time and they got to face teams towards top of that division, they'll falter a little bit. But yeah, I think that this is a really good young pitching staff. Trevor Rogers, I think, is going to be very, very good this season. Might break into the Cy Young conversation. Pablo Lopez too, really, really good. And of course, Jazz Chisholm. I love watching him play. He's just one of the most electrifying, entertaining players in the sport right now. They've really come a long way since having all those superstars, but not having anything to do with them. But they kind of they are essentially what the Angels should have done about 5 years ago. Think of what a better position the Angels would be in if they had done what the Marlins did, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, this is a team that I think is going to be. This is a very young, talented team. They're still about a couple years away from really making some noise. Um, but they're really. I think they also like the Orioles that they can play spoiler down the stretch for a lot of these playoff teams. They're looking to solidify their resumes before the postseason.
Yeah, 100%. But I can't believe you're sitting here and saying they should have traded Trout. Like, that's crazy.
You get one the biggest prospect haul in history in return.
Yeah, I know, but do you give the greatest? If he stays healthy, I think he will be healthy this year. My hope. Who's third place team?
Third place team. I adjusted this after some recent news broke about their star pitcher, but I have the New York Mets at 81-81. Losing to Grom for about half the season because that's probably what it's going to be missing at the very least. That's no bueno. That's no
It's
bueno.
2 weeks. It's just
That's
2 months right now, right?
them 2 months right now, but I think honestly it might be more.
Okay. I just didn't know if
But
anything else.
still, not having your ace for 2 months of the season, especially when you rely so much on him and his production over the course of the full year, it's going to cause a lot of issues, I think, for this pitching staff. That's going to put a lot of strain on Max Scherzer, who is dealing with injury issues of his own. His arm might be dead by June at this point. We don't know. But the Mets supposedly in on every free agent. They got Chris Bassett from Oakland. Um, of course, they lost Baez in free agency to Detroit. I'm just not excited. I don't. I'm just never. Every year we talk about like the Mets, the Mets, the Mets. This is the year that the Mets are going to get back in it. This is the year that the Mets are really going to break through. And the original, like, why, why do we keep talking about this? Like, yeah, Steve Cohen now wants to spend money, and he doesn't fear the luxury tax. But guess what? That can't change what Brody Van Wagenen did to that roster. It can't change what so many other owners and general managers have done since that 2015 run in the World Series. They're in purgatory right now. It just feels like they have no idea what to do in terms of how to get back in contention, and they're kind of in. You can't turn back now. You got to try and contend with what you got. So I really don't know what to make of the Mets. That's kind of why I have them 81-81. Without DeGrom, that shaves off at least 6 or 7 wins. Um, but yeah, I'm just is it there's just, this it's the definition of meh at this point.
I did not really adjust that much from it. I probably should have, but that was one of the last divisions I didn't. My team in third place is the Philadelphia Phillies. Now looking at it, I could definitely see them as second. I don't have them separated much by them. I have them at 86 and 76. But I could see them skyrocketing to second for sure. Because I think there's a clear winner. But the Phillies, their defense is going to be atrocious. Their defense is going to be one of the worst things in baseball. I still don't understand it. I saw a clip of Castellanos and Harper playing third and short, and I laughed hysterically at it. Like, they can't play an outfield position. They're not going to be able to play infield. Like, that's just crazy to me. Maybe Harper could. I could see Harper playing like first or something if need be, but I can't see him playing the hot corner. Like
Nope.
that's insane to me. I think the team is good. So every year I pick a National League team to like when the Red Sox are like day games versus night games. I tune in and watch some. The Phillies are my team this year to watch. because I think they're just going to smash. I think they're literally going to run ref shop. I think Castellanos, if healthy the full season, could be MVP. That ballpark with his hitting stroke literally doubles Alley. I know we were in talks to get him for a little bit. Like, I think the talks were by media. We were only getting Story. Yeah, I think we're only going to get Story. I think he plants fake things out there to let everybody off the scent of Heim. But Phillies, overall, could easily win. Their pitching staff is really interesting, but also very questionable. I think Zach Wheeler and Nola, if great, they're unstoppable. If they're rough, because Nola can be rough, I think Wheeler could win MVP, like Cy Young. I think he's that good of a pitcher. But man, there's so many questions in this division right now between the rest of the teams. They could also, like last year, when every team was like below 500 at the All-Star break, like they were all like tied or 500. It was nuts. So this team could be another thing, but I think that ballpark, I mean, David Dombrowski strategy. I want somebody, I'll pay whatever it takes to get them. So we know that's how we lost Mookie Betts. So don't be surprised when Bryce Harper gets traded in a year or two, because everything comes crashing down. So my second place team, I have the Mets. I have the Mets. I think they got better offensively overall. I think that team is good. I think Baez was not the correct move. I'm glad they didn't get him. But I think Don Smith, I think Pete Alonso, I think Lindor takes the corner this year. I think he's better. I think I am always still surprised that he's in the news, but Jeff McNeil, one of the best like hit for average guys. I don't understand why they want to trade him off. Like, that's a perfect person to play. Just the second, he reminds me of Dustin Pedroia, just a second base, just gun and just do it. I think Marte's really good. I think they win the second place division. I have them at 89 wins and in the playoffs. But the reason why I have them there is because I think Cohen makes crazy moves at the deadline. I think he'll trade the entire farm if he has to, and what thereof, to get players that he wants to make the run. But that's just my take on it. But again, I have them separated by 3 wins. I think they could flip overall because I think there's a clear one. Who's your second place team? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I have the Phillies in second. I have them winning 85 games. This is a team that's going to hit about 200 home runs this season, and they're going to strike. They're going to strike out about 1,000 times as well. They're going to allow about 500 runs this season, because they have no defense, they have no bullpen, and they're gonna lose a lot of games 14-10. Bryce Harper's going to hit for the cycle. Castellanos will go 5 for 5. Schwarber will hit a 500-foot moonshot, and they'll lose by 6 runs because Wheeler and Nola pitched the last 2 games. That's going to be their season in a nutshell. I'm very excited to watch them play. Like hell, when Wheeler's on the mound and you got like all those guys up at the plate, hell yeah, I'll watch him. I'll watch him win 11-0, and then Nola comes in the next day. They win like 12-3, and then whoever their other starters are, I'll watch them lose 19-8. Hell yeah, let's go. Let's do it. They're going to set a record for runs allowed this season. But hey, they'll be fun to watch. And then when it comes to August and then September, and they got to play, teams like the Braves and the Brewers and the Dodgers away from home, they're going to get their heads bashed in because they can't stop a nosebleed, much less a fly ball. So they'll be fun to watch up until about mid-August, and then they're going to plummet down to earth, which has kind of been their identity for the last several seasons.
Wait.
But I will say, it is fun. I am very interested to see Mickey Moniak, former number 1 overall pick. He's had a great spring training. I hope he breaks into the lineup at some point because I'm really rooting for him to make a comeback here with the Phillies. So I'll be watching for that.
Are you telling me you don't believe in Zach Eflin and Kyle Gibson to hold down the 3 and 4 spots?
I believe in Kyle Gibson as much as a 45-year-old man believes in Santa Claus. He'd rather do the work himself.
That's fair.
Yeah.
First place team, we've agreed a lot on the first place. I think the biggest one difference was the West. We definitely
Yeah.
disagreed on that one. But this team, how does this team win a World Series and get better?
It's crazy. I mean, we're talking about
that is the smartest GM in baseball, and it's not even funny. And honestly, I think Heim Bloom is up there with smartest GM because how you looking back in the last, we trade Mookie Betts and then we're in the ALCS. Like these are crazy circumstances. How this man got rid of Freeman, replaced him with a younger version, and paid him less. What? That bullpen was gross last year after the deals they made, even grosser now. That bullpen is insane. Kenley Jansen in that bullpen in Atlanta is better than it will be in the Dodgers. I've stood by it. I think that because he doesn't have to be the only person. All the pressure doesn't have to rely on him. He can come in the 8th, 7th, come knock some people down. Then the next game he can save one. And they won a World Series last year without this young player. My people might not know him, Ronald Acuna Jr. What? They're getting Ronald Acuna back. Austin Riley's taking a step forward. Ozzy Albies, Matt Olson, which was better than Freddie Freeman last year. I think this team is secretly the team to do a repeat. It hasn't been done in a while, but I guarantee that the Braves of the 90s that people talk about, we're on pace right now for a team this young to do the exact same thing. Their pitching staff is still great. They have question marks, like they're 4 and 5. I would be a consideration, but if they get the same production that they did last year, and we all thought they were idiots at the deadline last year. They traded for 3 outfielders that just smash and go me want hit home run and just went out there and won a World Series. Bringing back Rosario, greatest and uncheap. How does he get people? Does he just not speak to Scott Boras clients? Is that what he does? Like he refuses to talk to anybody with Scott Boras and just does everything his own.
So here's the interesting thing. I live in Atlanta. I live in Braves country. There's this thing called Anthopoulos Island, and it's sort of a theory that Alex Anthopoulos kind of just has a way with agents and can just get the deals he wants. He got Albies and Acuna to sign for minimum extensions when a couple years ago. Absolutely bad for the players, probably bad for the game, but genius move by him. Stealing, locking them down through their primes. Not to mention the fact that
didn't he get it for like 8 years, like $100 million or something?
Something like that. And then Albies was like 6 years, 84 or something like that. But so the issue with Will Smith, the Braves closer last year, is that of course he wasn't going to be able to be on every night. Of course, every closer has an issue. So what does he do? Brings in Kenley Jansen, was the exact same issue. So what do the Braves now have? They have 2 closers who can alternate night in and night out and lock down the game 1, 2, 3. See you later. This team might not have a blown save all season. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous. I've been winning 94 games this season. I think even then I think that might be slightly modest because you get Acuna. You're going to get Acuna back sometime in May or June or whatever because he's still rehabbing from the torn ACL.
No, they're going to bat him. They're going to bat him DH in by April 22nd.
Oh shit, that's right. I did
not know
about that.
They're going to DH him.
I mean, even if they do want to rest him, they have more than enough bats to cover. They re-sign Rosario for a 2-year deal. They get Adam Duvall back, and even though they lose Soler, oh well. Guess what? Acuna's back. You have the big bats, and you get Matt Olson, who is a younger version of Freeman, slightly lower stats than Freeman. But guess what? Freddie Freeman's agent screwed him. You don't play hardball with Alex Anthopoulos and win. And now Freeman's in LA, Olsen's in Atlanta, and the Braves are, in my opinion, until someone beats them, they're the favorites to make the World Series out of the National League.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. And that's with a team in LA. Like I think this team is overall better than what that team was able to do. And I think that's just crazy to say. Um yeah, so just to go through it real quick. Um NL East. That's Thomas's yeah, we have him pretty close all around. He is the Mets a little lower than I do, but overall, I think we're in agreement. But yeah, I have him 93. You have him 94, and honestly, could be 100. Like that team has every potential to be as good as they can be. So we're gonna go NL Central now. We'll kind of speed it up. We've been talking for a little while. We'll get tired at some point. Um, I have a team at the bottom. They're going to lose 100 games, but I have them at 62 and 100. Could be worse. I don't know what the fuck this franchise is doing. I have no idea. I thought they had a shot to be really good. Let's just say a first baseman for this team deserves better. He just deserves better.
You have them last.
Yeah, I have Cincinnati.
Holy shit.
Okay. I have Cincinnati. I have them in last place, and yes, and I know the Pirates are in the same damn division. But here's my take on it. I think overall, I think some of these players don't at least stay on Cincinnati through the whole season. I think they sell more. I think they trade more. I think Votto gets traded. I think he goes to a contender and he either helps or whatever. I think he's on a different team at the end of the year, which is sad. I think they have some good young players, but their pitching is so inconsistent. I think who's their ace?
Male is his name?
No,
Castillo.
Castillo. I think Castillo is going to get on another team too. I think they're just going to clean fucking house. Like Jonathan India, there's some really good players, but I have them overall losing a 100 game. They fire sold everything. It was so weird. Again, and I stand by it. Like they're one of the original teams in baseball, but I think sometimes maybe get a different owner. Get an owner that loves baseball. Like that's the whole thing that I want. I want every ownership to just love baseball, like a Steve Cohen. Go out, spend your money, do what you got to do. Don't make this your only income, because when this is your only income, you treat it like a business at times, and it's just not what baseball is. Like, it's just so sad. Like, my dad and people used to talk about the Big Red Machine of the 90s. This is nothing anymore. Like, this team is gross. So who's yours? I'm guessing. I think I know.
My fifth place is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, I have them winning 59 games this season.
Wow.
Yeah, because this is a team that smartly, of course, fully committed to the rebuild. They're going to have one of the most electrifying players in the league, O'Neal Cruz, coming up at the end of April. They're going to try and manipulate his service time.
Yeah, so we can keep him for another year. Yeah,
like keep him for another year, which pretty shitty, but I get it.
Can we just make that 4 years? Can it just be 4 years?
Brian Reynolds definitely on his way out, most likely. He was reported to have been traded to San Diego, I think, a couple days ago. I don't know what's going on with that, but I don't think he stays for another week there. You have Brian Hayes, who is a really good young prospect, but he's had injury issues. Guys like Jacob Stallings, Cole Tucker, really interesting young players. But at the end of the day, this is not going to be a competitive team this season. And especially when you have teams like St. Louis, Milwaukee, and even Chicago who are going to be trying and contending later in the season, they're going to be a proverbial punching bag down the stretch in the last few months of the season. I mean, I see them in maybe a couple of games against each of those teams, maybe, but they're essentially going to be record patters, stat patters for those higher teams in their division. So that's why I have them. That's why I have them so low.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Who is your fourth place team?
My fourth is Cincinnati. I have them winning 66 games this season. Yeah, I think they saw Cincinnati is an interesting situation because they, like Oakland, put their best in the field last season and did their best to contend. And then they got their asses kicked by both Milwaukee and Cincinnati, and they were even losing series to the Cubs in the last few months of the year as well. And then they decided, screw it, we gotta tear it down. Now the returns they're getting for a lot of their players like Winker and Suarez, those were abysmal returns. The best guy they got in return was Jake Fraley, who I love. Jake Fraley, he's he's a really good player, but he is not a guy who will be cemented in your starting lineup for 162 games. I mean, that's just not going to happen. They got rid of Sonny Gray. It was a player for player swap. I can't even remember the guy who they got in return, but that was an abysmal trade. They're probably going to get rid of Votto. Probably won't get more than a prospect or two in return. And then they're going to try to build around Jonathan India the way the Nationals are going to try and build around Juan Soto. And roughly so, because I think Jonathan India is going to be one of the best players in the National League for the coming future. He's a great young player, going to be their leadoff guy, is cementing that lineup. But they're starting to rebuild, which I think is the smart thing to do at this point. But they got to get better management because the returns they're getting are just awful.
Like, there are people in stats departments that do research and tell you who the top prospects are. Like, why don't people actually look at the stuff before they do stuff? Like, it's crazy how they end up getting someone in return. And if somebody says no to your deal, you can go shopping elsewhere. You don't have to just say, okay, fine, I'll take it. Terrible. My fourth place team, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I don't have that much passion. But I'm 68-94. I have the Pirates. I think they're pretty interchangeable, but I think the Pirates, I think the Reds have bigger pieces that are going to be gone. Brian Reynolds has like 4 years left on his like commitment to them. I don't think he goes anywhere right now. I think they're going to try. Somebody's going to try to snag him. I would love to have him, but overall, I don't know if he goes. They have young players. If they stay healthy, their pitching staff, I think they have chances, but overall, it's the bottom feeder of this division. The Central has always been. It's just one of those terrible teams. And honestly, I don't think it gets much better from the next team up. I have them 75-87. I have the Chicago Cubs. I have the Chicago Cubs in third place. I don't know what the hell this ownership did. I think it's weird. I don't think they made any of the good moves to help this team be better. Now I know they're in the kind of rebuild mode, but they're also in the spend money mode. Like, I think Suzuki is going to be like a really good player. I kind of wanted him as the Red Sox. That we were linked to him at one point. We didn't get him, which sucks because he got him for cheap. He's not very expensive what they got him for. But they also didn't pick anything. So I think that pitching staff's not going to be great. I think the infield, I think what did they trade Kimbrel for? They got the second place Madrigal, I think.
Madrigal, he's going to be good.
I don't think
he's going to be good.
I don't think he's going to be great. I think he'll be fast. I think he'll be good defensive. I don't think he's going to be a great bat. Their overall outfield, I don't love. I think their first baseman, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I think there's going to be a solid player.
Frank Schwindel.
Yeah, Schwindel. I think Schwindel's going to be fine. I think there's some places. I wish they were better because I absolutely love their manager. I think David Ross is a fantastic guy, fantastic player coach. But just in a shitty situation. This is what happens when your owner's trying to buy a Premier League team. This is the main reason. Saving all his money trying to buy a fucking Premier League team. And as a owner that has a Premier League team, I get it. Like, try to cut costs when you don't have to. Who's your third place team?
Yeah, I have the Cubs too. I have them higher. I have them at 80 wins. Because I like what I saw from both Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom last year. I think those are two guys who I think are their culture guys. They really believe in what David Ross is trying to build in that locker room. They're really solid players, very consistent producers. You also have, of course, Seiya Suzuki, who I think is going to be a spark plug in that roster. Wilson Contreras, who, after all the talk, I don't think they trade him. I think he stays. I think he is the leader of that locker room. He's the last guy, aside from Hayward, of course, who they can't trade at this point. There's so much money owed to him. One of the only guys left from that 2016 squad who won the World Series. Um, but yeah, like a lot of Cubs fans were mad that they didn't try to make moves, try to get Correa and all that. But this is more of a retooling phase than a rebuilding. I think that the returns they got last year for Rizzo, for Baez, and for Chris Bryant were actually pretty solid. Thank you, New York Mets, for Pete Crow Armstrong. He will be the center fielder of the future. So thank you for giving from Cubs fans everywhere. Thank you for giving him to us for 2 months of Javier Baez. Beautiful, you guys are the best. So I think this team it'll benefit a lot from having to play Cincinnati and Pittsburgh so often. But when push comes to shove, when you're playing the Cardinals and the Brewers, a few times a month, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. But summers at Wrigley, nothing really gets better than that.
Summers at Fenway. Just by the way, as the podcast keeps going, try to figure out what Scully's other fandoms are as we go. He'll give you hints. My who's your second place team?
Second place team, I have the St. Louis Cardinals. I've been winning 89 games. This is a team that
88?
kind of missed 89 games. 89.
I have them at 88, so we're pretty close.
This team mystifies me in a lot of ways. You get Paul Goldschmidt, you get Nolan Arenado. You should be a 100-win team. You should easily be a 100-win team. You have Jack Flaherty, who I know he's one of the best pitchers in the game, but there's just so much inconsistency that surrounds this franchise so often, so much so that you boot out your manager, who I think was doing actually a pretty darn good job, save for the Alex Reyes incident in the wild card game last year, and you bring someone else in. You bring someone else in who, in a few years, will probably be fired for another bad decision. So it just feels that this team is kind of in it's an upgraded purgatory mode. They're constantly in the playoff hunt, definitely a wild card team, but more often than not, they can't win the division because there's always some other team that just goes above. Or if they do win the division, there's some team in the playoffs that just smokes them every single year. So I think this team is very talented. You got Tyler O'Neill, who I think is going to be really good. Dylan Carlson, who I think is going to take a big step this season. Then, of course, you got Yadi Molina, who, objectively, he's a great catcher, but, fuck him. But, yeah, there's a lot of question marks, I think, around this team, especially when it comes to the bullpen. Will Reyes be the closer of the full season? Will he have a short leash? Will he have a long leash? Who knows? But there's enough talent on this team from Goldschmidt and Arenado alone to get them to that 89 win mark and into the postseason. And I think, especially in a weaker NL Central, they'll be able to do that.
A lot of question marks with the Cardinals. I know the head coach was very heartbroken for the loss, 20 wins in a row or whatever. Mm-hmm. They rattled it off. They were doing so well. They were fighting through everything. They were making a comeback. Almost beat the Dodgers in the postseason. Like, that's something that goes unnoticed, but they almost did. My thing is they were in on Story, apparently. They didn't get Story. I think there's something special about this season with them. Waino, Molina, Pujols all kind of going out together probably. That's kind of honestly thing. Again, unbiased Scully over here, Hayden Yachty, first ballot Hall of Famer, no question about it. But they have a lot of young team. O'Neill, I think Edman, I think Bader, I think if they all take a step forwards, they have a great team, great pitching staff, like bullpen wise. Jack Flaherty with that shoulder issue, a little bit question marks there. Alex Reyes with being shut down for 60 games, 60 days IL already. So a little bit of interesting news where we're at, but I think the Cardinals are one of those teams that always finds it out. The fan base there will always pull them through. They're probably one of the largest, loudest fan bases in baseball. Probably the best fans overall, if you think about it, just how they support regardless where it is. They gave Pujols a cheering ovation. Like, they're just that team. And then we agree again, Milwaukee. Milwaukee is the winner of the Central. I have them at 92 and 70. It could go
I
higher.
have them at 93 and 69. So
yeah, they're feasting off this division. Their pitching staff is gross. I think me and Scully will agree. Their question mark is their batting. Like their hitting is always going to be their problem. I think McCutchen is an interesting ad, but I don't know if that replaces Garcia. They lost out. They got Hunter Renfroe, and if Hunter Renfroe does what he did in Boston, will be a great addition to that team.
You have to keep an eye on that strikeout rate, though.
The strikeout rate will be very high. I think that ballpark's not very friendly to them overall. Keep Williams away from any hard walls and any alcohol when he wants to punch stuff. Their bullpen's really good. Their pitching staff, I think Corbin Burns is literally one of the grossest pitchers in baseball. I think it's insane. But yeah, it's going to be a bunch of questions overall with their hitting. We don't have to spend a ton of time on them, but yeah, I think their win, they get to feed on three basically terrible teams overall. And then they had to battle with the Cardinals, and Cardinals will stick around the entire time, but I think the Brewers run away with it a little bit near the end. Your quick thoughts on the Brew crew?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's really not much else to say. They've been very consistent for the last 4 years. It just depends on how consistent can their hitting be. You saw what happened in that series with Atlanta. You put a team with three good starting pitchers against that lineup, and they fall on their face because they're in a division where pitching isn't normally the strong suit outside of the Cardinals and Jack Flaherty. You don't have a lot of other, consistent arms in that division. So more often than not, the Brewers aren't really used to facing teams with terrifying pitchers on day 1, day 2, day 3. So when you get to the postseason and you're facing an LA or an Atlanta or whoever who can bring out good arms in game 1, game 2, and game 3, they have no idea. Brewers really more often than not have no idea what to do. It's what killed them last year. It's what's killed them in every postseason since, with the exception of 2018, because 2018, Yasiel Puig became, Inferno Puig, and won that series for the Dodgers. But yeah, they're going to win the division again. The main question is, can they be consistent enough on offense in the playoffs to actually get over the hump and win the pennant?
Yeah, I just don't think so. I think unless Yelich becomes MVP caliber again, I don't think they do it.
I'll be honest. I think Yelich is overpaid and a little overrated for the money he's getting.
When he got the money, it made sense, but now it definitely doesn't. Mm-hmm. All right, now we're going to go to the most boring division in baseball. Now it's going to be really interesting, honestly, this year overall. We can just unanimously. We're running pretty long for our first episode, so we'll just kind of speed this one up. I think me and you can agree on our bottom two. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or do you have the Diamondbacks and I have the Rockies, then Diamondbacks. But
I have Diamondbacks at 56 wins, and then the Rockies at 74.
I think the young talent. I think that's why I put them a little higher. But I have them at 70 and 92 and 68 and 94. So I don't see much difference. I just feel like Colorado made some stupid, weird moves. I don't understand it, but
Colorado. The moves they made the past few years have just irritated the hell out of me. You choose not to trade Story. You miss out on the haul you could have gotten for Story in return. Yeah, you give Chris Bryant 7 years, $215 million or whatever.
182. 182.
182. Sorry. but you give him like whatever that plus guaranteed money, whatever, for a squad that should be going into a full rebuild right now. It's absolutely maddening. Look what Cincinnati's doing. Colorado should have been doing that. You're trying to contend when you have three other teams in your division who are in contention, plus a team in Arizona who is committed to a full rebuild. What the hell do you think you're doing trying to contend with three other top-level teams in your division? I have no idea what Colorado is doing. It's gonna backfire in their face, and in 3 years, they're gonna have to find a team to take on Bryant's contract for them just to get a prospect in return. It's absolutely maddening watching their thought process up there in Colorado.
They didn't, and Arizona, they extend Cattell Marte. Why does he want to stay there? Overall, and then Bryant, why does he not want to win for like 8 years? I understand a lot of money, but gosh, take like $20 million less and play somewhere that you're actually going to have a career. Never understood that policy. Baseball players got to get paid, but at the end of the day, like, don't you want to win? Like that would be my goal. If I was that good of a ball player, I was like, man, I'll
Scott
take
Boras is one of the biggest villains in MLB today.
I'll take $4 million less. I'll take $7 million less and play for a championship team. It's weird. I don't understand it. Maybe everybody needs to go to GM school with the Braves GM. And I think this is where the interesting thing is. We'll break down this one. We'll go side by side. My third place, I have the Padres, 90 and 72.
My third place, I have the Giants at 89 and 73.
Okay, that's fair. I just think the Padres, their pitching is really crazy. They have like 9 starters that they could use right now. I think that's going to be a concern basically right now, like who they use, who they trade for, where they go, because they have a lot of pieces to be able to spend. But yeah, I have the Padres. The staff, if they do the Dom Smith trade right now or Hosmer, I don't know why the Mets would do that trade. It makes no sense to me. But if they do it, Dom Smith over there would be a way better choice. But then they just got Luke Voigt.
Luke Voigt.
I don't get what they're doing at all.
And Luke Voigt is honestly a great fit in San Diego with the Slam Diego mantra and all that. He brings a powerful bat to that lineup. Definitely a guy you can slot in there 4 or 5 days a week.
Why do you have the Giants finishing third?
The Giants love because I think they're due for a little bit of definitely a downturn after what happened last season. Last season was just unbelievable in every aspect of the word. You lose Kevin Gausman, you get Carlos Rodon in return, but there's injury concerns with Rodon. How long can he stay healthy for? Plus, I think you have the whole thing of, hey, you won 106 games last season. Every other team in the league's been looking at your tape all season. What's worked for you and how best to beat you. I think especially the Dodgers are going to be looking at that because they essentially have the blueprint on how to beat San Francisco. The Padres are going to be looking at that as well. I just don't think they have as much staying success going forward because this isn't really a team that has, a deep farm. They don't have a lot of deep prospects they can rely on. Their best prospect, Joey Bart, he's kind of I'm not really sure where he is at the moment. You think he's the catcher of the future, with Posey now gone, but you just don't know. I think there's a lot of question marks as to what this team can do. That's why I have them at 89 wins. I think they're still in the playoffs, but I don't think they beat either San Diego or LA.
So we have them flipped basically. I'm assuming. So I have the Giants at 92 and 70. I have them close.
I have the Padres at 91 and 71.
I just think they can flip really easily. I think the Giants overperformed a lot last year.
Right.
Do they get better? No. Do they get worse? I'm not really sure. They're kind of like the Rays of the West, basically. They put all these teams. They basically do a bunch of Kepler is not a manager. He's basically just a read off a stat, answer the phone, and do what the people tell him to do in the stats office. Like a Kevin Cash. Like Cash doesn't do his own play calls. He has a playbook in front of him and plays his players. Like you pitch this guy for 3 innings and you have to take him out at this point. I think that's the same thing that this one does, and I think they just work. I think Logan Webb takes a step forward. I think he's really good. I think he can be one of those pitchers. They have a lot of good young bullpen. They have just a lot of team that just doesn't quit. I'm with you on Rodon, the West Coast Heat. How does he play in that all the time? But again, I have them really close. I think the main thing was the Padres, the Tatis injury. I think Tatis is like the blood of that team, the fire, the angst that gets you guys going. And with him missing, the only thing I will say, and the one thing I didn't factor, and I wish I did factor, Bob Melvin is their coach, and I think Melvin is a fantastic coach. I'm so glad he got out of freaking Oakland. So that maybe would have been my difference if I would have went back and changed. I might have agreed with you on that one. Why do you think Padres over?
Well, yeah, you said it right there. Bob Melvin, I think, is going to really stabilize this team. This team had a lot of tempers run high last season. We all saw the video in the dugout of Machado and Tatis going at it. Machado being like, "Hey, you need to essentially just get your head out of your own ass. Where this is a team sport. We are a team. You're not the only guy here who wants to win. Help us win." And I think also, even with Tatis out, you got CJ Abrams coming up from the minors. He's a really exciting prospect. So I think the ceiling for him is tremendously high for him to be able to perform. And then when Tatis comes back, he maybe takes over the outfield. Abrams slots in at short. There's so many different creative possibilities that Melvin can do with this lineup that I think is going to give them the ability to get back to the playoffs, get to 91 wins, maybe even more. Because I think with Melvin as the stabilizer, as their manager, I think their ceiling is very, very high. But I keep the expectations a little bit tempered because I'll be honest, I don't trust their pitching staff a lot. I think Joe Musgrove is good, not great. I don't really trust Yu Darvish all that much. And aside from that, you got Ryan Weathers, who is going to be a good young guy out there for them. You got Blake Snell, who has not been able to replicate what he did in 2020 last year. Who knows if that'll be the case again this year. Just a lot of question marks for the pitching, but I think in terms of the offense, Bob Melvin is going to bring a lot of stability and is going to be able to do a lot of really cool stuff with the guys that they have in that locker room.
And we'll talk about the boring one first. I have them at 103 wins. I have them at
I've been 99.
Yeah, pretty close. It's the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are overall. They got better overall. I think they didn't get worse. They added Freddie Freeman. They have Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Trey Turner for a full season, and Justin Turner in their infield. That's just disgusting. They have Mookie Betts and Wright. And I think their main problem right now is Cody Bellinger. I don't know if he's on the team at the end of the year at this point. I think he's really struggling to find his way, which is sad when you're selected by that much talent and that many people that hit around you, how he can't figure it out. They also have Will Smith, which is a catcher that can just fucking rake. Not to mention they have Urias. They have Walker Buehler. They brought back Clayton Kershaw if healthy.
Then not to mention Gavin Lux too, waiting in the wings.
They have Gavin Lux that doesn't even have a roster spot at like a position right now. If Bauer comes back at any point, they still have Trevor Bauer on the books. Dustin May is supposed to come back. They got Craig Kimbrell, which I think is hilarious because Dodger fans get to see another ball go over the fence for a walk-off on other people's things. Like, that's just nutty to me. Like, why would you go get him? I think Chris Taylor is there.
Graterol too.
Who'd they just trade?
They just traded Pollock for Kimbrell.
Pollock is a weird trade. I think they should have stayed on the team. But yeah, they have the 102 sinker pitcher. Listen, this team is just poised to just be unstoppable. But I'm going to put this out there right now. Dave Roberts came out on the record and said we are winning the World Series this year. That is a terrible thing to say. You never call your shot this early in the season with no injuries. I bet it bites him in the ass. I liked him as a player. I hate him as a manager. I think he's a joke as a manager overall. It's basically somebody that says, here's $1 million, and then you're blessed by the company. You were lucky to have the team you have. They're a manager. If you give Bob Melvin, any of these players, this much talent, like, of course. And you've only been able to win one World Series with these great rosters, and it was in a shortened 2020 season. You have yet to put in full staff, and I still think the Braves can kick your ass. That's just my take on it. Thoughts real quick on the Dodgers.
A short 2020 season when you relied on one of the biggest choke jobs in baseball history to get to your World Series. And that's the Robert saying that's a man who was told, hey, win the World Series or you're fired. Because I think that's where Andrew Friedman is at this point, the GM. I think that's where he is
They
at this point.
extended him, though. They just gave him an extension. What?
Probably to save face, but I guarantee you his job's on the line if they don't perform well this season.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, this team has a ton of talent. They were able to essentially they got their Corey Seager insurance policy with Trey Turner. That paid off. They now have Freddie Freeman, who's back home and playing in LA, which I think was the best case scenario for both sides, for Atlanta and LA. Both, getting guys who lived in that area before. Pitching, of course, they're going to be great again because you got Bueller, Arias, Kershaw's coming back. You also got Tony Gonsolin, too. Can't forget about him. He does really well as well. And then the bullpen, question marks as to who's ending the game. You have Graterol, you have all these other arms, and then you got Craig Kimbrell. How consistent is he going to be? Is he really going to be an upgrade over Kenley, like some Dodger fans are saying? And you know who you are. If you say that Craig Kimbrell's an upgrade over Kenley, you are high as a kite. Come back to me in May when he's blown 3 saves for you. But again, it comes down to the postseason. Can you win a 7-game series against a team that is poised and built to beat you? Can you win a 7-game series when your bullpen cannot be relied on consistently enough? That is the question that has to be answered. Because they couldn't last year. They gave up way too many home runs to a team that essentially was built for power. And they fell flat on their face in the last couple of games of that series. So they need to prove that they are the juggernauts we think them to be.
So, so that's where we're at right now with that on the West Coast. My predictions right there. And then there's Scully's. Real quick, we don't have to go into a lot, but we'll both go into it. Who is your AL MVP?
It's Vladdy. It's going to be Vladdy this season. I just think that he said it best last season, the trailer this season, the movie. So he better put on a good show, and I think he will. He's going to be electrifying to watch. He's going to have a whole country on his back, essentially. He's going to be the most electrifying player in the sport this season, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to watch it.
We may disagree on this entire podcast, but I think we have the same 3 for each person. That's kind of stupid. Are both AL Cy Young, and we both have Shohei Ohtani. I think Shohei Ohtani. I think honestly Shohei could win the MVP if he has another great offensive season.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of a bias. He's the closest thing to Babe Ruth right now, where we have he's able to do both. So it's hard to say he doesn't get the edge.
And I think with the added hitting talent the Angels were able to acquire in the offseason, they're going to want him to focus more on pitching this season.
Yeah, his
I think
hitting.
that would be that's the smart move. But we'll see.
The Ohtani rule is going to help him even more.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's able to think. Both NL MVPs. It's Soto. It's Soto. He could honestly lead the league in average. He could lead the league in a lot of things, even with that team that doesn't have put a lot of people on base. It's crazy, but he's a freak. There's always comparison to him and Acuna, who's better, who's not. I think it's Soto right now, especially with health and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, of course, with torn ACL, you have to go Soto, but when both are healthy, honestly, it's a toss-up.
Yeah. And then we'll go quick. Your NL Cy Young, my NL Cy Young is Corbin Burns, right?
Oh, yeah, mine's Burns, too.
Yeah, we were in lockstep on all the prizes. I think Corbin again is one of the grossest pitchers in baseball. That sinker and cutter and like slider is just disgusting what he can do
Yeah.
with them.
Every 4 or 5 days, Brewers fans are just treated to a masterclass in pitching.
I actually
And
got to
he
watch him.
never fails to disappoint.
I got to watch him pitch live, and he gave up 4 runs in the first inning. It was kind of amazing to see, but yeah, it was overall a great choice. Well, we'll go through. So just real quick, we'll trade one apiece. Who's your batting title? Just
Batting title, I'm actually going Trey Turner. I think Trey Turner I think Trey Turner really he's going to get a chance to really come into his role with the Dodgers. He's not going to be platoon with Corey Seager anymore. He's going to have every opportunity in the world to lead off for the Dodgers, to be the guy in the room, to really be the clutch hitter in these situations for them. I think he's going to have every opportunity in the world to be the guy on the team in baseball.
I 100% agree. He's my batting title as well. I think he's. I looked at a lot of people. I thought Soda and stuff like that, but I think he could lead highly in average. I think he could be 320, 330, have a great season overall. Like he's going in fantasy baseball drafts like number 1, which makes sense because he can steal, he can run.
Yeah, but he was like the 13th ranked prospect, though, I think, on fantasy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and I think that's just low grade on him. I think in every category, he could help you in every aspect of the game. And I think he could I think he could win MVP if he has like a stellar season, but we'll see what happens. He's got a lot of people in that lineup. Home run leader, I bet we probably have the same, but I went with Vlad. Yeah, Vlad.
Yeah.
Again, I saw the trailer last year. I hated facing him last year. I play MLB The Show, and I walk him every time I come and pitch it to him because I can't stand the man because he will literally take any shot you take deep. I believe him. I think the movie is well worth the hype. I think he's going to. I think he could hit 50 or plus. I think he could be crazy right now. I hope the Red Sox walk him. I think the Red Sox walk him every chance he comes up because he's slow enough. We can get a double play at second, but
treat him like Bonds. You just treat him like Bonds.
Just walk him right off the bat and let somebody else try to hit behind him and ground into a double play. I do not want to see him hit. Anything quick on him?
No, I mean he's pure power. He's power personified.
I think this is going to be the interesting one because I know we're going to be different on this. Who is your RBI leader?
Earlier, I got Yordan Alvarez. I really think he's going to be a difference maker for the Astros, especially his spot in the lineup, just sandwiched like around guys like Altuve and Tucker and Bregman. He's gonna drive home a lot of runs this season. You gotta smoke things right in the gap. You think of Minute Maid Park and that little alley that they have. I mean, the balls that he hits are gonna live there all season.
I went a little different. I went with Matt Olson. I think Matt Olson with this Braves team where he's sandwiched in, I think he could just. They have a lot of speed on this team. They have a lot of just young players that will just book it. I think he could just drive in so much. I think he's again. I think the first few games they're going to miss Freddie, and then at the end they're going to be like Freddie who. I think he's going to be a masterclass over Chapman and Olson. Why they didn't try to prioritize Olson on people's other team is crazy to me. They got him for a steal, and they cheap in place. I think he's going to burn every bit of his money. So my wins leader, I have Julio Urias for the Dodgers. I just think with the Dodgers, he could pitch 6 innings, and then they just take the wins because that offense is just powerful and you can't get anything through. That's my belief. Who's your pitcher?
I have Aaron Nola. I have Aaron Nola kind of for the same reason.
Same reason, yeah.
The Phillies offense is going to be electrifying all season. When he and Wheeler pitch, it's going to be wins stacked up. I just think since Wheeler's dealing with some injuries, he might sit out for maybe a few days at a time, a few weeks at a time. Nola's been more consistent, so I'll take Nola over Wheeler, and he'll get the most wins.
I 100%. That's fair. ERA, I went with Corbin Burns.
I went with Corbin Burns as well.
Yeah, I do can't. You're lucky to get 2 runs off the man. He is going to be lights out, I think, all season. Plus, he gets to pitch against a weak division. He's the Cy Young for a reason, but he also has some of the nasty stuff. I've seen people that seen him live and say he's disgusting. Like watching him like real up close and personal and see those pitches. They say he's gotten better in the offseason, which is terrifying for players. I'm glad we don't have to play him in the AL East. I'm glad we don't have to play him that often. Who's your strikeout leader?
I went with Shane Bieber.
Okay.
I went with Shane Bieber just because I think he's one of the strikeout kings in baseball. I think especially in a division that has so much power to it, especially with lineups like the White Sox and the Tigers and the Twins, lineups that are predicated on purely power, you're going to get a lot of swings, and the swing and miss rate is going to be incredibly high. I think for a guy like Bieber, he's going to rack up the strikeouts all day long against teams like that.
My kind of thing is I went with Garrett Cole. Overall,
Spartak?
I think he's Spartak. Yeah, I don't think he pitches well, but I think with the division that he's in, there's a lot of swings and misses. A lot of swings and misses. I think Toronto's going to swing and miss a lot at him because they're first pitch only, and he has his ups and downs. But when he hits in those middle strides, I think he'll hold enough. But I don't think overall he'll like win a ton. But I think he's going to strike out at least 9 a game or so. So I think he'll lead the strikeouts. But I couldn't. Shane Bieber is also a really good choice. Here's my number 2. Your rookie of the year for the NL.
Rookie of the year for the National League. This was super tough.
Yeah.
Shit, where'd I put it?
I went with Cruz from the Pirates.
There it is. I talked about him earlier. C.J. Abrams.
Oh, okay.
C.J. Abrams. I really think that he can. I was between him and O'Neal Cruz of the Pirates. I really think Abrams has a golden opportunity with Tatis out to really make his mark on this Padres team. I think he'll be a standout once he debuts. And I think once Tatis comes back, he'll still find a way to be in the lineup. Tatis maybe moves to the outfield because Tatis just tries to be like Jeter all the time, and that normally doesn't really work out for people. But yeah, C.J. Abrams, not a popular pick for NL Rookie of the Year, but I think with his opportunity with Tatis out, I think he's going to make the most of it.
I went with O'Neal Cruz. I think O'Neal Cruz would be it, but they're pretty close. They were hand in hand. I just think he'll have time to shine. I think they'll bring him up in April, and he'll be able to run. Next one will be real quick. We'll just say it right now. It's Bobby Witt.
Bobby Witt.
The dude's killing spring training. I think he's going to be the best thing to see in baseball right now. I think Julio Rodriguez from Seattle has a really good shot because he is on the opening day roster right now, so they're both shots there. But Bobby Witt's just fucking killing it, and I hope he does kill it, and I hope they hold him precious for 6 years and then we take him. But it's the belief. Anything you want to say about Bobby Witt?
No, I mean he's going to be absolutely electrifying player. Kansas City should be really excited about the possibility of him playing a full season of baseball.
Yeah. Plus, I just like the name Bobby Witt Jr. Like, if you got a good announcer, that's going to be fun calling it. Manager of the year, I have Charlie Montoya for the Blue Jays.
I went with Snicker of the Braves. I think he once again can display so much leadership in the locker room. He really gets guys to buy into what he's trying to build in Atlanta. And hey, the fact that he was in like a mid-season replacement for another guy who was canned and he's still around, that's unbelievably impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Bob Melvin was my close second runner. I think with bringing the team back from a losing
Service was my second.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll go real quick. We'll close up the night on our playoffs and how we think it's going to win the World Series. I'll go through mine just real quick. Again, with my standings that I've already said, it's the Blue Jays 1, Astros 2, White Sox 3, Red Sox 4, Angels 5, Yankees 6. I have the White Sox versus Yankees, Red Sox versus Angels. Then I have the Red Sox beating the Angels, so they'll take on the Blue Jays. I have the White Sox beating the Yankees. I have them playing the Astros. I have the Red Sox beating the Blue Jays. I have the Astros beating the White Sox again. And then in the thing, I have the Red Sox finally coming over the Astros to win the ALCS. Who is your AL playoff?
ALCS. So I stacked it up as Blue Jays are the 1, Mariners the 2, White Sox are the 3, Rays are the 4, Astros the 5, Red Sox the 6. I know that look. I'm gonna be getting that all season long. So I got the Red Sox over the White Sox in the wild card, and then the Rays over the Astros in the wild card. These are best of 3 series, so I have both series actually going the full 3 games. In the ALDS, I got the Blue Jays beating the Rays in 5 games. And I got the Red Sox beating the Mariners in 5 games as well. And then in the ALCS, I went with the Blue Jays over the Red Sox in 7 games to win the ALCS. Tough, but I'm really buying into what the Blue Jays are doing this year.
That's completely fair. My National League, I have Dodgers 1, Braves 2, Brewers 3, Giants 4, Padres 5, Mets 6, which could be Phillies. I have the Giants versus the Padres in a 3-game series. I have the Giants beating them. I think pitching overtakes them. I think they have just too many arms, but I think overall, and then I have them in 3 games. I have Brewers versus Mets. I have the Mets actually beating them. If they're up and healthy, I think they could take down the Brew Crew, especially because it's pitch versus pitch. Then I have Braves versus Mets. I have the Braves winning in 5. I have Braves winning in 4 games. I think they maybe win 1, but I think the Braves are just overall a better team. Then I have Dodgers Giants. I have Dodgers winning. It's Dodgers versus Braves, but then I have the Braves winning. And I have them winning in 6 games. I think the Braves are just the team that is just scary enough. Tell me about your NL.
Yeah. So I had Dodgers 1, Braves 2, Brewers 3, Padres 4, Cardinals 5, Giants 6. So the Brewers over the Giants in 3 games. The Padres over the Cardinals in 3 games. The LDS got the Dodgers over the Padres in 4 games. The Braves over the Brewers in 4 games. And then NLCS rematch, same result this year. Braves over the Dodgers in 6 games.
Okay. So you have Braves, Blue Jays. I have Braves, Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
My biased hat at all, I have the Braves winning the World Series. I have the Braves beating the Red Sox in the World Series. I have them beating them in 6 games. I love what they do. I just think the pitching staff of the Red Sox is just not enough for the Braves overall. I think that team is poised to do a back-to-back repeat at this point. Injuries in the game could change it. I hate to put the Red Sox. I'd rather them lose in the first round than lose in the World Series. But I think Cora is the manager for the postseason. I think he's hard to beat, and I think he'll find what it is. And especially the 3-5 matchup kind of thing, game changing. No one manages playoffs better. But I think just that bullpen is just they could literally start their bullpen against anybody and be fine. It's gross. Who is your World Series champion?
Braves, Blue Jays. This is a series where it depends on who's pitching. It depends on who's pitching. I trust the Braves pitching more. I trust Ian Anderson, Charlie Morton, Max Fried to win their games handily, and I have the Atlanta Braves winning, repeating over the Toronto Blue Jays in 7 games. Don't be a hard-fought 7-game series. There's gonna be a lot of home runs, a lot of strikeouts, and imagine Kenley Jansen striking out Vladdy to win the World Series.
Yeah, crazy. So we have them both. We have back-to-back. Braves win back-to-back at this point, right?
Yeah.
So again, thanks for tuning in. This is a longer episode. We probably should have broke this up in little parts, but we decided to film in one night. I'm excited for this podcast. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. Again, Scully runs our Twitter, so be able to interact with him. He'll probably in people's comments talking about stuff, especially baseball season's here on the. We're seeing this. We're one day away, opening day. We'll be definitely talking about the Red Sox game, probably on Twitter and elsewhere. Just come back and see us. We'll be around for drafts, stuff like that. If you're interested, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you'd like to see us do. We'll definitely meet for mid-season stuff. We'll meet just different news. We try to do one a week. We'll talk about overall sports. Have Scully keep a tab of what we need to talk about because he's pretty up there in all the Twitter feeds of all the sports, and we'll do a recap special of what we feel. Caleb Coho is kind of our guy, that graphics guy, and brings stuff on, so I appreciate him for checking it out. But follow us on our YouTube page, follow us on Twitter, and at some point we're going to have a TikTok channel just of the little clips from the show. So we're hoping to have a great baseball season. Hopefully the Red Sox do win the World Series, and I'm wrong about this, and everybody else has terrible injuries and goes down. But again, this show you're going to see just be as honest as possible. I'm not here to you're lucky we started this after the lockout because I'd had a whole special about Manfred. But lucky baseball's back and I get 162 games. So he's off my radar for right now. But
For now.
Yeah, we'll do lists. We'll do different shows that we find topical, ranking the best positions and stuff. NFL draft, NBA playoffs, NFL stuff. Again, you'll see fandoms come out for your people. Fantasy leagues. We'll do a lot of stuff with this community. So join us. Comment on the video. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much. Thank you, Scully. Let's play baseball.